Can Utah get bowl eligible this year? Kyle Whittingham also spoke to the media, gave us some insight on his team, as well as some really unfortunate updates on a season-ending injury. Also talking some Utah recruiting with the high school football season in the midst of playoffs. All that and more on today's Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen and view of the day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network and available wherever you get your podcasts. If it's your first time tuning into our show, make sure you like and subscribe. Love and interact with all of you in YouTube comments, as well as on social media. We can follow our show at Locked On Utes on X. Today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On College, all caps, no spaces, for $20 off your first purchase. My name is JT Wistrcill, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department. Lawrence Sanft, kind enough to join me at the head of PrepRedzone Utah. And Lawrence, crazy time of year at the high school football playoffs. Excited to get your thoughts on the top high school football players in the state. Before we dive into that, I got to talk about some big things with Utah football. Get to Kyle Whittingham's press conference in a moment, but we just want to pose the question: do we think this Utah team will get bowl eligible? Unfortunately, as of the time we're recording this, I can't say yes. I just can't. I'd want to, but I can't. The way this offense has looked, even if they're better, I expect Utah to continue to play. They'll probably get blown out once or twice again this season, but they haven't been yet, right? They've kept it close. The defense is so good; it's going to continue to keep them in games, even if they're maybe not as good as they were last year. But Utah really doesn't have a quarterback. Offensive line has been up and down as of late, particularly on the interior. And even the offensive coordinator changed with Bajakian. He's done some good things, but that's still not ideal in the middle of the season. So I just can't see Utah. And the biggest thing, too, is the schedule, right? You couldn't beat Houston, TCU, and Arizona State and Arizona, all of whom are middle or lower tier Big 12 teams. You get BYU and Iowa State, two of the best teams in the two best teams in the Big 12. And I know, BYU could say rivalry, but hard to me to say, oh, yeah, Utah will win that game. Colorado is a terrible matchup for Utah with how good Shedeur Sanders is playing right now. Even with Utah's defense doing well, it's just you're going to need to outscore Colorado, and I don't see Utah doing that. And UCF, a cross-country road game. The Knights are struggling mightily, but Utah is too. Hard for me to see Utah ending the year 2-2 based on their 4-game losing streak.
So I think the bye week kind of came at a better time for them. It's a good time for them to regroup, refocus, re-strategize, whatever they have to do. Their next 3 games against the ranked opponents is going to be a hard task for them to do. But I think – because it's BYU, it is a big rivalry game. It's going to be at Rice-Eccles. This could be a good start for them to spoil the party for them. They're number 9 in the country. They got nothing to lose. So do what you got to do to beat this team. Obviously playing BYU is it's different for them, So this will be a great start for them to play. And their offense has struggled. Losing Cam Rising was a big loss for them. I'm still high on Isaac Wilson. I still believe he's the face of the program. And he did get that wrist injury, so we'll see what happens when they play them next Saturday.
I still want Isaac to get a chance. I still believe he could be a good college football quarterback. I am not high on Isaac Wilson in the short term. Kyle Whittingham actually even mentioned today that he's been playing with injuries. This comes to us from Josh Furlong, who put out on his X account that he said that Wilson has been playing with injuries for much of the year, which has contributed to some of his play on the field. But he credits his ability to continue to fight and want to be on the field. And of course, injuries no stranger to this Utah football program, although they did get some really tough news about Money Parks, one of this team's best receivers, their deep threat. Just Money has been, the 70-yard touchdown pass. Money's had some awesome moments with this Utah program, and unfortunately suffered a season-ending injury. Having that guy who can take the top off is a very valuable thing. And unfortunately for Utah, they just lost that in Money Parks. As for who steps up, we can talk about that in a moment. But Lawrence, this will not be an easy guy to replace for what he's meant to this offense.
Right. And luckily for their defense has kept them in games for this long. Michael Bernard, I still believe he's a good running back. And they still got Brant Keithy, who's still one of the top tight ends in the country. So they still got people to build around. It's just going to be a lot harder. And it's going to be a big ask for their OC to see how they can get these guys involved.
Yeah, it's what Bajakian will be tasked with doing. Speaking of Bajakian, and then also speaking of just receivers and everything. I thought one interesting quote Kyle Whittingham had was when he said that, this comes to us from Josh Furlong, where he said there's a handful of guys that haven't played this season that Utah is considering their redshirt eligibility. Like, could they play them and they still keep their red shirt? Damian Alford is a guy that maybe's played in 1 or 2 games. Like, he is a natural deep threat. He averaged 19 yards per catch. We'll talk about this more throughout the week on Locked On Utes, but Kyle Whittingham did say that they are indeed in the midst of another quarterback battle. Isaac Wilson and Brandon Rose kind of splitting reps. Can't believe we're doing this again with the quarterback situation, but it makes sense. I mean, Isaac did not play great, but neither did Brandon when he was put in. I think Lawrence, because of what you kind of mentioned, I still believe Isaac can be the future of Utah football. He should not be given the job, in my opinion. They should bring in a transfer and have him earn it and see who's going to do better. But I still believe Isaac has potential to be a good college football quarterback. I think about a guy like Caleb Lomu. Had Caleb Lomu been thrust out at left tackle last year, probably wouldn't have gone that well for him because he's a true freshman. Wasn't ready. Now, got a year under his belt. He's been fantastic. That's what Wilson should have been given, a year to grow and develop. But he wasn't. And now that he's been thrown to the fire, people are ready to say, like, this is who he is as a college football player. I'm not ready to say that. So I would rather see Wilson start the rest of the season just because he's already proven he's better than Rose in the short term. I feel like he will be better in long-term option and is in Utah's long-term plans more than a Brandon Rose might be. But who do you want to get the nod and who do you think will win it?
Like I said, I'm still big on Wilson. Brandon Rose, if Brandon Rose can make a run for the starting quarterback job, and he has earned it, then so be it. But I still believe Isaac Wilson is the future. Like, this is a trial by fire for him. So this is a time for him to learn how to play quarterback at this level so that by next year comes around, he'll be ready, he'll be more polished to play at this level. So I'm still big on Isaac.
Yeah. We'll see how it all comes together for Isaac and how he looks the rest of the year. If it'll be Rose. We got a lot of time because we are in the midst of the bye week, of course. But interesting to hear what Kyle Whittingham said. We'll break down those comments more this week. But Lawrence, since you are with PrepRedzone Utah, want to dive into some of the top high school football players in Utah and also talk about Utah's loss of Aaron Dunn and who Utah has already found along the offensive line to try and replace him in the 2024 class. We'll be breaking that down in one moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by our great friends at Game Time. Game Time is your place to get all of your tickets, whether it's sports, concert, comedy, or theater events near you. Game Time has you covered. Game Time also has a new feature called Game Picks to make getting tickets to see your favorite team play live even easier. Game Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time, like I said, it makes tickets easier. There's that curation that makes it easier to save more on your sports, concert, comedy, and theater events near you. There's also that all-in pricing, a feature that shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. You also get the panoramic seat view from your seat in the app before you buy. That low price guarantee also comes up huge, where Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's capital L for locked, O for on, and all of college is capitalized. So Locked On College, and also no spaces between those. So Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, Lawrence Sanft of PrepRedzone Utah back with me here. And Lawrence, a lot of people in Utah were obviously disappointed when they saw Aaron Dunn, the 4-star offensive lineman, the top recruit Utah has in this class. We used to have Thatcher, used to be a 4-star, but he got dropped a little bit in the rankings. I still think he can get back up there, or in a 3-4-star, depending on what site and ranking, of course, you used to. But Aaron Dunn, massive loss for this team. A huge offensive tackle, one of the best players in the state, second only behind Jerome Miles. Now both those guys over at USC. You look to what Utah's done, though, since, and they did make an effort to add another offensive lineman. They picked up Nick Halleck, for a 3-star offensive lineman from Bingham's, 2025, 6'4", 250, who runs a 4.7 in the 40. I think he projects more of a guard at Utah, but what do you think of Utah's loss of Aaron Dunn, and what do you think of Halleck as another target that Utah is? He's currently 100% crystal ball to Utah, and he got his offer the day after Dunn decommitted.
Yeah, losing a guy like Dunn, when your team's doing bad like this and you're your guys are decommitting like this. It's like, well, like, why would you do that? But losing a guy like Dunn, someone with his size, like that's hard to find out here. So it's a big loss. But finding a guy like Halleck, anyone that doesn't know Nick Halleck, if you were to see him in person, you probably wouldn't think he played offensive line, right? Until you see him play. Like this kid he's good. He can block some of the best players here in the state. He can go against. I've seen him go against some really good kids out of state too, and he's been able to perform at a high level. So all he needs is to just add some more weight to his size, and you got a productive player on your offensive line. But Utah did a good job of giving this kid an offer. I feel like he's earned it. He can definitely play at that level.
Yeah, Lawrence, you and I are both guys that we look at football recruiting and monitor it closely. So I can't be the only one out of the two of us who got excited when I saw he runs a 4.7 in the 40. You're talking about a really athletic guy. When I turned on the tape, I saw a guy with good feet, finishes blocks, athletic, can pull. Same thing you said, needs to add strength, needs to add weight. But that's what the next level is all about. I just talked about how Caleb Lomu, what happened? Took him a year, and then he boomed into a star. Halleck might who cares if it takes him 2-3 years, whatever it is, but this is a guy who has the potential to contribute on this offensive line. The athleticism in there, and you're telling me he just needs to get in Utah's strength program, which has done a great job helping guys like Spencer Fano and Caleb Lomu reach their potential. I like the fit, and I'm really excited about this player's future with Utah.
Yeah, he's in good hands.
Yeah, feels like he is. But outside of a guy like Halleck, that's kind of the obvious ad for this Utah team. If you're looking at the class of 2025, still got they got 18 guys committed overall, so still a strong group that Utah's got. But are there any hidden gems in the class of 2025 that haven't committed anywhere yet that you think that Utah should be looking at to round out their class?
We do have guys in our top rankings that haven't committed. I brought him up in the last show. The last time we talked, Hoyt Pula, the defensive end from Syracuse. He's a really good kid. He's someone that can ruin a game. And if you don't game plan around him, he's going to go crazy on you. But I went to his game earlier this season, and one of the coaches did tell me Utah was coming to come watch him. So haven't heard any news yet after that, but hopefully Utah can make an offer there too. Other kids that are top ranked is Will Van Cott and Jace Tupea from Bingham High School. They haven't committed anywhere yet. Will has gotten Ivy League school offers and other D1 offers, but if Utah can make a run for this and get both of those guys, I mean, they've done a good job getting guys from Bingham High School. I mean, Junior Tafuna and Smut Pepe are just to name a few, keep that pipeline going and grab those guys. Austin Pay, the offensive lineman from Lone Peak. I know he's being nationally recruited, so I don't know how high Utah is on his list, but he's probably one of the only offensive tackle prospects in this class that can play offensive tackle at the next level. So if they can grab someone like Austin Pay, that would be a great grab for them. Junior Coughlin, the wide receiver from Skyridge, he just transferred from Dixie, but the kid's got speed, and that's why they got him. So if they can grab someone like Junior Coughlin who can, has the speed to run top, make a play at the top of the route, make breaks in and out, it'd be a great grab. Bronson Kalahuli, he's a DB from Spanish Fork. He's a 6'4" safety. He's someone I feel like he can play linebacker at the next level. If someone who can move side to side, he's an explosive tackler. Someone I feel like the Utes can grab and have him play linebacker. It would be a great addition to their defense. Dylan Curtis, he's the top kicker in our top 25 ranking from Murray High School. He just broke the state record kicking a 63-yarder. So grabbing a kicker like Curtis would be a great addition to the team. Also grabbing defensive backs like Abe Jager from Lehigh High School and Landon Golf from Lone Peak. Those guys haven't got offered yet, but those guys can play against some of the best competition. So if Utah can make a run for these guys, that'd be great. Along with Nash Bailey, he's an edge rusher too from Fremont. He's a stock riser. He's slowly coming up there, but he's a really good pass rusher. He's really good with his hands. I really feel like the Utes should or at least take a look at him at least. Some
people might be listening and be like, okay, why are we talking so much about in-state recruiting? I think I would say two things. Number one, Utah is a really good high school football state. The nation has been sleeping on Utah for a little bit now. I'd say the nation woke up because what did USC just do? Came into Utah and took the top 2 players in the state. So there are people. Nebraska's coming to Utah and grabbed some guys recently too. They're up there in the top 24/7 rankings. Also, to be one of the best teams in college football, you have to recruit your state well. Everyone does it at the best level. Think about, why is Texas normally good, right? Why is Florida teams normally good? Obviously not Florida and Florida State this year, but like you think about California, like these hotbed places, right? The teams that are the best usually recruit their own state really well, because if you got an awesome guy that's in your backyard, that's a big advantage to have. And you want to make sure you can bring them in, because it's harder to get guys to come out of state. You see that with Utah's recruiting classes, right? It's rare that we see Utah. Yes, they landed a Clark Phillips, but he was supposed to go to Ohio State, right? Like, it's hard to land those big fishes, because in recruiting, so often those guys either go to the top program, or especially for a smaller program, or not small program, but one that is not a major powerhouse program in college football. That's where recruiting and development is so key for Utah. And Utah has been able to recruit and develop and find some guys, right? In-state, some of the recent guys who made Utah football so prominent, right? The Smith Snowns, the Lander Bartons, the Spencer Faunos. Those are in-state recruits, paramount to Utah's success. You've got to recruit your own state well. It's something that's absolutely essential. And Utah's done a good job of that so far. You mentioned Junior Tupuna, as well as a Samote Pepa being some of the other recent examples. And I do believe that this Utah team will still consistently be the top team in Utah if they can beat BYU out for the top players in state, which is definitely easier said than done, right, Lawrence?
Right. Plus, I heard Coach Scally say 60% of their starters come from the state of Utah the past 3 seasons. So, yeah, they're loyal to the state first before they go anywhere else. I mean, it's cool to recruit states from California, Texas, and Florida, but they can find talent here before they go anywhere else. And that's how you build a culture too. You know, in order to sustain a culture, you got to recruit in state to kids who grew up knowing this team and knowing what this team is about. So it'd be great to it's good for them to stay in state before anywhere else.
It's one of the best ways to find those hidden gems too, as you mentioned, right? Like Utah, they have a great scouting department. They search far and wide, but obviously they have better relationships with the high school coaches and everyone just in their own state. So they're going to hear the whispers about, hey, you should look at this guy. He's really good. That's where I think it's been really beneficial for Utah that they've recruited their state well. They've been benefiting from it, from some strong seasons. Obviously this year hasn't gone the way they hoped, but that's more due to certain quarterback injuries. And I do think long-term, I still believe in a couple of years, Isaac Wilson can be a really good quarterback for this team. But that's the class of 2025. I want to ask you about the class of 2026. And we've heard about a couple of these guys, right? Brock Harris, the tight end out of Pineview, 6'6". Like, he's got incredible length. Second best tight end in the nation, actually, too. So that would be that's a monster get for Utah. Batmuli Talo, defensive end from Lone Peak. That guy's a dog. He just gets after it. Sesi Muala, safety, wide receiver from Weber. He can do whatever he wants. He's a fantastic football player. Helaman Kasuga already committed to Texas A&M, so Utah lost out on him. So those top 4 are top 100 players. Who are some of the other guys in the class of 2026 that Utah fans need to know
about? There's a kid named Kepa Nui Mulatolo from the quarterback from Lone Peak. He's probably second behind Helaman as far as the 2026 rankings. He's a really good kid. He's got a good arm. Kid's got some mobility. He can move around the pocket. He can run for extra yards if he has to. But this is actually his first year actually being a full starter for the team. He was actually at Alta. He was sharing time with another quarterback. So to see him play at Lone Peak, to be the full-time starter, to see what he can actually do, I was like, oh, yeah, he's behind Helaman Kasuga. And they were able to play against each other earlier this year. He was able to show out. So he's definitely someone that I feel like that can fit their offensive scheme in Utah. Another kid that I like is a offensive lineman right next door at East High School, Sama Mapa. He's someone with big size. He's got great feet, good hips to move, and good functional strength to block at the line of scrimmage. He's someone I feel like can be a great interior guard at the next level and be a great fit for their offensive line. Juni Moala, edge rusher from Davis. He's someone with 6'4". He's got great length. He uses his hands well, can get after the quarterback. And there's a running back from Lehigh, Devon Ika. There's actually 2. So Devon Ika and there's another kid, Shiaki Fekitoa from Bountiful. But I think because the Fekitoa kid he's about 5'9". I think he won't be playing at a P5 level. He'll probably play FCS at best, but Devon Ika, he's the prototype for a Division I, and he's got great speed in the open field. He's been producing really well. He's going to be an all-state player. So those are guys I see that Utah should put their radar on, make a run for these kids.
A lot of great talent in the state. And as we mentioned, too, some of your favorite recent football players, if you're listening to the show, Van Fillinger, Junior Tafuna, Samote Pepa, Isaac Wilson, I know it's, like I said, it hasn't gone great this year, right? But I still think he's a guy who's going to have a lot of potential. Spencer Fano, Caleb Lomu. There are a lot, Smith Stone. There are a lot of really good football players in the state of Utah. Lander Barton, another one. Recruiting your state is paramount to your success. We got the high school football playoffs going on right now. And there are a lot of future Utah football players in action. A lot of those guys grew up dreaming about going and playing in those games in those great environments in Rice-Eccles Stadium. And so many of them are going to get to make that a reality based on their performance. So it'll be interesting to see what Utah continues to do in the recruiting trail, especially as the groups that they're bringing in, the class of 25 and 26, will be tasked with trying to get this Utah team back on track to conference championship level standards, something they've fallen short of this season so far. So we'll continue to monitor recruiting during the season. And, of course, as we get closer to signing day and everything there. But before we get out of here, Lawrence, today, just something that popped up. Former Utah quarterback Jack Tuttle retired after his 5th concussion. He's a guy who started his year at Utah back in 2019, then transferred to Indiana for a few years, spent the last few years at Michigan, was the backup for J.J. McCarthy. And this is a guy who was he was a very high recruit when he committed to Utah, but like we said, he had to retire due to the concussions, and he had a repair on his UCL that never fully healed. And I think this is just that reminder of like how taxing the game can be, the ramifications of it, and concussions are a scary word, and especially just health in general, right? Like the UCL is another thing that Jack's been wrestling with, and I give all the credit to Jack for realizing, like, you know what, it's not worth it anymore. I want to prioritize and protect myself because this is a dangerous game. It's a game we love, and I'm sure many of you listening, you grew up playing it in high school too, right? But concussions are not something that you want to mess around with, and it can be hard to like give up on it and decide, hey, it's time to hang up. But I like this a lot from Jack Tuttle because it just, once again, this is such a physical and violent game that you have to remove yourself from the competitive standpoint of it and just take a step back and go, what's better for myself long term? I like that Jack is doing this.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, football, it's the most violent sport we have on earth. Mm-hmm. So, I know a lot of kids, from high school have these dreams of playing at the professional level and, going to college, hoping they can do that. But when you play at a college level, like everyone that you play with and against are just as bigger, faster, and even stronger than what you thought what was in high school. So, when you go against these competitions and just the grind of college football, it's hard. So, some kids are able to go through the obstacle of college football and making it to the pro level. Some kids just don't. But this is why college is such an important step because, yeah, football might not work, but what does these colleges that you go to, what do they offer so that when football is done, you guys can, go with the connections that you made in college and what you've learned so that, you feel like your dream is not over. Because some people, they go with that football only dream and think like, I'm just going to do football and only football. But I think with Jack's example, it shows like, yeah, you should play. Yeah, it's okay to play football at college, but you should also be getting, an education as well. And it's just because like, even if you do make it to the pro level, it's like, it's not guaranteed you're going to play there until you're like 40, right? So it's a reminder for all college athletes to look in just to see like, hey, if this doesn't work, then yeah, we should do something else.
Yeah, always have a backup plan. That's what the reward you get to go. You're getting your school paid for a lot. Right. Most of these guys are. You go to college, so that's where you take advantage of that opportunity, and you want to set yourself up for success no matter what. And there is life after football, and we all get wrapped up in the competitiveness. Like we said, we love it and play through injuries. But once again, a lot of credit to Jack for making this call and wish him the best. He's going to get into coaching too, so wish him the best in his coaching career and endeavors after. Lawrence, you did a great job, my friend, breaking down all these guys in the state of Utah. If people want to learn more about all of the high school football players, I mean all of them, from the best guys to the top, the 5-star, the 4 stars, the 3 stars, the under the radar guys? Where do they need to head over to?
Hey, go to PrepRedzone. We cover every athlete from top to bottom, whether they're being highly recruited or not. We feel like every school in the country are looking for players everywhere. So we're a great source for all those colleges in the country. So come look us up.
Awesome. Lawrence, you're the man. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks, JC.
That's going to do it for today's edition of the Locked On Utes. We'll be back tomorrow. We got a lot to discuss still about this Utah football team, including the state of the Utah football program in general, amidst one of the most disappointing seasons in the history of Utah football. We're breaking that down and more on tomorrow's Locked On Utes.